Hello, everyone, and welcome to Generation On Empowering Youth to Serve webinar. We are really excited. We have prepared a really good agenda of tools and resources to discuss this topic, and hope you enjoy it and you learn a lot. So today we have with us.
My name is Roella Ramos. I'm the Senior Manager of Clubs here at Generation On.
Hi, I'm Jenna Bird. I'm the intern at Clubs.
And my name is Dairani Scrujon, and I'm the club coordinator. Later in the webinar, we will have one of our facilitators sharing some really good information about how she works with her club. So let's just go over what we're going to be talking today and how the agenda looks like. So today we're going to do our participant survey, as always, just to learn more about where you're coming from and interests. Then we're going to do like a brief pop quiz about the topic. Then we're going to dive into how Generation On believes we can empower youth to serve, and we're going to talk about how to identify and value confidence and ownership and reflection. So we're really excited for today and hope you like all the material that we have prepared for you. So let's dive in. So please, in the chat box, please answer the following questions. Where are you from, city and state? And if you are participating in Family Volunteer Day, which is coming up this November 19th, and if so, how are you planning on serving?
Yeah, so Generation On had a bunch of Family Volunteer Day grants given out, and some of them are in New York City, where our office is located. So I get to go see, one of our grantees. And they are a Catholic organization, and they're going to make cards for people in the hospital as well as in nursing homes. They also have youth doing DIY snow globes, so that's really exciting. And they're also doing some beautification projects around the organization that they work with. So I'm doing that tomorrow for Family Volunteer Day without my family. But you can still volunteer, so if anyone's doing anything tomorrow for Family Volunteer Day, please share with us your ideas in the chat box. Please let us know if you don't see the chat box. It might also be the questions box.
No? Let me see. Maybe that one.
Okay, no worries.
Awesome. So thank you we're having some technical difficulty, but we're going to dive into the question for the day, and that is, what is the ratio of youth in the United States believing that their ideas and opinion are not valuable? And this question is related to the topic that we will, I see. Let me go back. So we have Valerie. She's joining us today from Sacramento, California.
Hey, I'm from California.
Woo! And then we have also Lorene from Denver,
Colorado.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today. And Valerie, yes, she's participating in Family Volunteer Day. That's fantastic, Valerie. Thank you for sharing.
We'll definitely make sure to follow up with you and see how your project's going.
And post it on our Facebook group, too. Awesome. So let's look back to the question and see, let's think about briefly, what is the ratio of youth in the United States believing that their ideas and opinions are not valuable? So what do you think, Jenna, would be that ratio?
I would think like 50%.
Okay.
Yeah, I would think actually a little bit higher. I would think 60 to 70%.
Okay. Let's see what's the answer. Okay. So according to research, 3/4 of American youth believe that adults did not value their ideas and opinion. And over 80% of youth believe that they are unfairly and negatively stereotyped. So this is from the youth perspective and experience based on research. So what's the problem with this assumption? That there are many prejudices regarding the interest and capacity of youth, and that leads them to believe and feel creating feelings of alienation they feel disempowered. Also, they feel like they are set to fail, and also that can also lead to directly harm themselves. In addition, sometimes youth may not perceive themselves as change makers because their service experience is not set up to maximize their ability. So this is something that let's take with us during this presentation to see how can we tackle and change this perspective with the groups that you are working with.
So again, we're talking about how do we empower youth to see themselves as change makers in their communities. And just a friendly reminder, Generation On uses the Learn, Act, Reflect model of service. So again, pushing people to learn about themselves, learn about their communities, and then learn about the issues that they're interested in. And from there, we ask them to act, implement their service projects, serve the community, and then at the end, reflect on how their service experience impacted not only themselves, but also impacted the community that they serve. So with that in mind, we also have these 3 different buckets that we want to help talk about when discussing how to empower youth to serve. So first, identifying youth value and how they can contribute to community change. And from there, building up their confidence and driving them to own their service experience. And lastly, again, reflecting on how not only they've grown, but also how they have helped their community throughout this whole process. And before we dive into those 3 buckets, I just wanted to highlight some guidance around communicating with youth. We all know that you all are the experts when it comes to speaking with kids between the ages of 5 and 18, but some are in school and in the classroom and have formal education and training around how to properly communicate with youth in the best way. But for some of you, you might be librarians or youth coordinators and things like that and may not have that formal training. So we wanted to offer you some guidance. And it's very, very simple. Be consistent in what you do when you're working with younger kids. I know with my nephew, who when he was between the ages of 5 and 9, he's just turned 10 recently, I had to be consistent with everything I did. Otherwise, he always called me out on everything. And then when you're going and communicating with tweens between 10 and 12, and as well as 13 and 18, you want to make sure you're listening, and always asking questions, letting them explore their curiosity, and then always pushing them to be part of the decision-making process with you. But clearly you can read this more. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. All right, so getting back to the 3 buckets that we were talking about, the first one is identifying youth's value. So a lot of the time when you think about change makers, they might be thinking, who's the one that can make all the change happen? It could be someone in political office. It could be someone really, really wealthy. It could be someone who's really smart and has so much experience in different sectors. And so we really want to push the assumption of who is a change maker from those idealistic views that are very, very far-reaching and push them to think and see themselves as change makers. So we want to debunk assumptions and help youth acknowledge that they have skills, they have talents, they have the capacity to make the world a better place. And once we help them identify all of the great things that they have to offer, we want to help them use their time and their resources and their talents for the greater good, which will be the opportunity in the service projects that you do with them. And we have an activity that we're going to share with you to help you facilitate identifying these the values and talents and passions within your club members in the next slide.
Thank you, Roella. So I'm going to walk you through my value chart. And this is a very useful tool because it helps your youth to think and brainstorm about their skills, their talents, values, and what they're passionate about. In my value chart, they can think about what talents they have, survival skills, things that you are most passionate about, what lessons have they learned about humanity, recognize people that they love and they share values with and that they can trust. Also, what part of their personality they feel more powerful about. And this is a great tool for the for kids and youth to find out about their own strengths because sometimes they think like, oh, I don't know anything, I don't have any skills, I don't have nothing to offer. And this activity allows them to think and brainstorm about that they do possess a lot of skills and a lot of talents that they can definitely share with their community and then also with the world to make it a better place. So we wanted to show you how this chart might look like if you implement it with your youth and kids in a service project. So Red is going to walk you through my value chart.
Yeah, so again, this is part of the learn stage of our Learn, Act, Reflect model. And we're in this learn stage, we're learning about what Zyronis has to offer. So through her value chart, which is also, I attached the handout to this webinar, and we'll also send out the PowerPoint slides and the attachment after the session, but it should be on your panel. But looking at her value chart and thinking about the service project that we have coming up, Generation On does one service project a month. This month, Jenna so graciously helped connect us with an animal shelter. So we'll be going to an animal shelter to serve with some of the animals there and doing a couple of different things. It's not clear yet, but we're going and we're volunteering at the local animal shelter. So when thinking about that and looking at her value chart, I want to ask myself, as well as Zyronis, what are some of her talents and skills and how we can use her passions to make our upcoming service project even better. So I see that she is a people person and she's an organizer. That's what she self-identified as one of her talents. So as a result, I automatically think like she can be the liaison between the organization, the animal shelter, as well as the Generation On office. She can be that point person who is going to make sure that we know what we're doing, how we can best serve the animal shelter, if there's anything else that we need to do or learn before we arrive. So she can be that person. We can utilize her talents in that way. Additionally, she is very passionate about gender equality. And that is one of her wishes for humanity. So thinking of that, maybe she can add an education component with our service project and research a couple of really strong, active women, as well as some men, who have done really great things in regards to animal welfare and share that with our group before we actually go and volunteer. So that would align with some of the things that she really wants, but again, at the same time, uplift the whole service experience on our behalf. Additionally, lastly, she is a person who's very solution-oriented and always has a positive attitude. So I know that our team can definitely turn to her if and when things ever go awry and we need someone to maintain perspective and be the cheerleader for the group. So that's just one way that I'm using Zyronis' value chart to uplift her, to uplift our experience.
Awesome. Thank you, Roella, for sharing my value chart. So now it's my turn. I'm going to share Roella's value chart. And as you can see, Roella is interested in, she's passionate about youth development, education, college access. Also, some of her talents are she's a strong writer. She likes to uplift people. Also, she likes data and work with Excel. And also, part of her personality that she feels very powerful is that she's very optimistic. She's determined. She's driven. And she likes to, the wishes for humanity is to have all children to grow up healthy and educated. So based on her value chart and the service project that we organize in here for the animal shelter at Generation On, I would count with Roella to, for example, write outreach letters or thank you letters after the service project, or to reach out to different animal shelters within the community of Generation On and see if other groups would like to join us for the service project. Also, as well, I would ask Roella to do research about the importance of having animal shelters in local communities and what they serve for, and how they also help communities to take care of different kind of animals. And also, I see that she's adaptable. That means that I can have her execute any of the tasks that we might have to do during the project. So this is sort of how we would implement, how will you implement the value chart based on the youth and kids in your group. So you can identify their talents, their skills, and also relate it to their passion, so they have a good learning and meaningful experience through their service project.
And just a side note, I definitely think that this is a valuable tool, not just only with youth, but also with your fellow colleagues. Dironis and myself did this together, and we learned about what our strengths were, what we really wanted to do, and it was a great learning experience for both of us.
Yeah, it also helps you to identify what each person in your group is good at it, and what they can do. Awesome. So hopefully this can be something that you can use with your group as well. So now we have talked about identifying values and talents with your group. So now we're going to segue on building confidence and ownership, which is the second bucket that we touched base at the beginning of the webinar. And that includes the conversation about developing civic engagement, youth voice spectrum, and delegating age-appropriate responsibility. So these are the three main topics on this bucket. So let's dive in.
Okay, so there are three different levels of civic engagement, and the first one is being a personally responsible citizen. So what does that mean? Being a personally responsible citizen means you recycle your plastic. It means you are kind and you open doors for people. It means that you don't throw trash on the floor. You are personally responsible for what you have to be doing. A participatory citizen, and this is a lot of our service clubs, they're the ones who are going to be lending a hand if they're being called for different drives, so they'll donate their warm coats, they'll collect food, they'll volunteer at soup kitchens, and the last one is the justice-oriented citizen. These are the people that are advocating to affect change for the root causes of different things. So they might be also contributing to food drives by donating canned goods and things like that, but they're also advocating for the poor, because they realize that one of the reasons why people are hungry is because of poverty and the lack of jobs and the economic state of their community. So those are the people that are working on those different things. So we say this because in part of building confidence and building ownership when it comes to empowering youth to serve is you want to scaffold their civic engagement, starting off obviously and meeting them where they're at. If they're at the personally responsible stage, meet them there, and then scaffold and build up until your service work is to the justice-oriented side of the spectrum. So we just want to make sure that you're mindful of the different levels of civic engagement, and always thinking about this and how you can be working with your youth to build that ownership of their work.
Awesome. Thank you, Roella. So now we're going to incorporate to the level of civic engagement the youth voice spectrum. And this is how you introduce the voices of your youth within the civic engagement levels. And as you can see, the youth spectrum is divided between youth-guided, youth-directed, and youth-driven. So in the youth-guided portion of the youth spectrum, the facilitator actively consider the youth point of view and opinions. And we're going to offer examples of how this looks like. So in the youth-guided, again, adults plan the project with youth and interest in mind. And also they ask the youth to respond to the project. While in the youth director, the youth are more actively engaged. They are able to contribute to the project decision making. And also adults actively give the youth choices and help them to make decision making. So the facilitator starts to remove themselves of all the decision making when you get to the youth director. And then in the youth driven portion, youth are actively empowered. They are making all the decisions for the service project. And then they are the one exploring their ideas. They create the projects, how it's going to look like, when, and how. And then they also use how they're going to design the project, how the program is going to look like. So we as a best practice recommend to always aim towards youth-driven service projects. And we're not saying that, for example, these are based on age, but more like what you see yourself as a facilitator working with your group and how far you can go with them. So that's why we recommend always to, because we want the youth to be at the driver's seat of their projects so they can have a meaningful experience and also grow their talents and skills.
And just to also talk about the difference between the civic engagement and this slide, the youth voice spectrum. So the civic engagement is more of the how you're approaching service, and the youth voice spectrum is the incorporation of the youth's ideas, opinions, strategies, and everything like that when it comes to implementing your project.
Mm-hmm. So now we're going to offer you examples of how this youth spectrum look like within clubs at generationOn. So we're going to use 3 different examples. So for the youth guided, we're going to use the IMAC Kids Care Club. And in this instance, the club facilitator, she was interested in doing a sandwich making for a homeless shelter in the local community. And in this case, the facilitator came up with the service project idea, when they're going to do it, how, which organization. So the facilitator did everything regarding to the project. The youth were only following the directions, and then they did the project. And then that's sort of an example of youth guided. Then we have the youth directed, and we're going to use the example of the Forest Park Kids Care Club. And in this instance, in this project, the facilitator, she came up with the idea of doing a fundraiser, but in this case, the kids decided which organization the money will go to, and the way they did it, they had to research different organizations that they were interested in, and then collectively share information of the organization, why would be good to donate the money, and then democratically they all decided which organization the money was going towards. So as you can see, the facilitator came up with the idea, but the kids in the club, they had a more participation on how and when they would donate the money that they were aiming to fundraise. And then the third one is youth driven, and we're going to use the example of the PHIPP generationOn Service Club. And in this instance, this club, they created a fashion show to bring awareness about healthy perspective on body image. And this is something that the club did itself. They did the research background by interviewing kids in the school. Also, they were making sure that there was a topic that the school was interested in participating. And also, they incorporated everything that needed to be done to actually make this happening, like how they would do this. They decided to do a fashion show, when and why. And it was really beautiful to see that they come up with this amazing idea, and they themselves created like gowns with messaging about the topic. For example, one of them created a gown with magazines to show how narrow-minded is the media about body image. So as you can see, each club had some level of involvement, but one thing that we want to recommend is that always geared towards youth-driven, because we want the youth and the kids to be at the front seat of the service project. And again, we understand that depending on the age, it might look differently, but we don't want to limit ourselves in terms of like kids projects or youth projects. So I really hope that these examples can be helpful for you in the future when you implement your service projects. Okay. Awesome.
Okay, so then the next portion of the confidence building and ownership is making sure that the volunteer activities are age appropriate so that the youth in those age groups have the most valuable experience. Because again, we're all about like making sure that their confidence is built up and they're definitely owning as much of the work as they possibly can. So for youth between the grades of kindergarten and 5th grade, you always want to make sure that the projects are hands-on, tangible, and in controlled environments. So you could all be doing crafts together, all be working in gardens together, but they should really be getting their hands dirty and doing the things themselves. So that way they feel like they're really contributing and improving their surroundings around them. And then for middle school age youth, between 6th and 8th grade, they're starting to become a lot more independent and definitely can also incorporate some more social elements. So for youth to really gain the most out of their service experience during these ages, you want to make sure that you're utilizing that potential of emerging independence. So really charge them to be the leaders of organizing different collection drives or organizing different gardening projects on the smaller scale as opposed to what you would do in high school. But you can also begin to introduce them to other people in your community so they're working alongside them, like seniors in nursing homes or patients in hospitals. This would be a really good and appropriate time for this to begin. And then for high school youth, they basically can do a lot of what most adults can do. They have a lot more independence at this time, so they can start to build things, use tools, use sewing machines and things like that. They can also take on leadership roles as well as be representatives and be advocates for different issues that they care about. So we just want to be mindful that all of the activities that youth are doing for their service projects are appropriate and that they're really maximizing the potential that the kids in that age group can do. So really push them to do what they can do and really support them and scaffolding information as needed.
Mm-hmm. And that definitely helps them to not feel like that they are set to fail, but more is based on their abilities and age-appropriate kind of service projects that they can implement. So far we have talked about building confidence and ownership and also how to develop youth values and talents. So now the third portion of the webinar has to do with reflection and why this is important, because we want the youth to see how much they have grown through their service project experience. Also, we're going to share with you different types of reflection activities and reflecting on the goals set out at the beginning of the project. So why reflection is important? So reflection allows students to react, to elaborate and contemplate on the nature of their experience while drawing connections between their service project and the big picture. So that means for a project, if, for example, your club is working on a drive, a food drive, and they learn about homelessness or the hunger issue here in New York City, for example, and they start to collect food cans and they have this food drive project, they can relate that to the issue of homelessness. They can relate that to the issue of hunger. So that gives them a bigger picture of how they can contribute to help with the issue that they are already encountering in their community. And also through reflection, a student are able to absorb what they have learned and relate it to how their project impacted their community. And that helps them to see themselves as assets and also change makers. So that helps them to build ownership and confidence on what they want to set themselves to do in the future.
Now we're going to have a Kids Care Club facilitator talk about reflection in that club. Welcome, Jean.
Hi, Jean.
Hi there. I have found this webinar very, very interesting, and it really fits in so much with what we're doing. I'm so glad to hear your ideas. As far as reflections, I wanted to first of all say that we are doing a Family Volunteer Day program tomorrow. We are setting up 6 different stations where families can come in and make things like tie blankets, literacy kits, greeting cards, things like that. And this year, for the first time, we decided we needed a reflection card at each table, so as families work together, they can reflect upon what they're doing. The parents can talk to the kids about, why are we doing this, and what can we continue to do as a family, because we just thought that was an important component that we had not done in the past and we wanted to include this year. I work with all kinds of kids. I go out to the schools and preschools, Girl Scouts, Boys and Girls Club, a variety of age levels of kids. So I have reflections that sort of apply to each grade level. For preschoolers, I just have them basically draw a picture of how they're feeling after the project. And then we talk about some of their feelings. For elementary kids, it's really, really easy. We can just get into a big circle, and I have a little softball, and we toss the ball back and forth, and whoever catches the ball has to remark something about the project, what they thought about it, why they did it, how they were feeling. With older kids, middle school, junior high age kids, I just have 3 different squares that they have to fill in. One square is labeled what? What did they do? And then so what? Why was it important to do that? And now what? What can they do in the future? I've also found that when I'm working in the schools, classroom teachers love to connect reflections to some of their writing curriculum. They just have students, who write in journals, write letters to the editor, things like that based upon their experiences. So this really lends to further learning in the schools too. We also do a pre and post survey of our service learning projects when we're working with the Boys and Girls Club and Girl Scouts and in the schools. And we ask on the survey questions like, I know what I can do to make the community a better place, and the students have to mark where they are on that continuum. Other questions like, I would be able to create a plan to address an issue, and doing something that helps others is important to me. We have a whole series of questions where they have to mark where they are in the continuum, and then we do a post test after we've gone through the service project. And it is a wonderful way also to have some quantitative measurement if you're applying for a grant to get some more funding someplace. We're funded through the United Way here locally in Waterloo, and this is a excellent quantification of what we do and how we are making an impact on the community. Those are just some of the ideas of things that we do.
Wow, Jean, thank you so much for sharing all these amazing reflection activities. I was looking to our next slide, wow, she's touching each of the points that we're going to share next.
Oh.
So I'm really glad you actually touched in each of the topics, and particularly on the quantitative measurement that is helpful for you for grants. Can you elaborate a little bit more about that? How does that help?
About our pre and post survey and how that helps?
Yeah.
It helps in a variety of ways. We know if we are reaching the kids, first of all. We also know what we have to work on. For example, last year, I think the students scored very low on the continuum about I would be able to get people to care about a problem. And then we knew that we had to work on self-esteem, empowering the students, just some of the things that you have mentioned earlier in this. So we closely examine, where we are low and what we need to do then to increase those areas in the post-test.
Oh, I see. Thank you so much for giving us that example, because that's something that we get as questions about how we can get more funding, and that is an excellent way of actually telling people a story of how it's important to fund your projects and your ideas. So thank you so much, Jean, for sharing today your reflection activities. So
You're
we're
welcome.
gonna pass. No, thank you again. So we're gonna go over again. This is the list that we have of reflection activities. Just as Jean shared with us, there are different ways that you can help your youth to reflect about their service projects. For example, You can use an interpersonal approach by having your group talking in a group session and just share their ideas and thoughts of how they feel and how their service project experience change their perspective of the view in a particular issue. Or, for example, you, like Dean shared as well, you can have them drawing pictures and then share with, or creating like a photography collage of how they feel about it, or that they saw something that they want to reflect on their reflection piece about their service project. So there are many different ways of engaging youth and kids on a reflection after a service project, and I really hope these different ideas can help you to go through as well through this process.
Great. And again, part of the reflection piece that we want to talk about is not only how has the service experience impacted the community, but how has the service experience impacted the volunteers, the youth that are doing all the serving. So Generation On looks at 21st century skills, creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and communication, as well as the social emotional competencies being compassion, caring, empathy, and gratitude. These are our youth outcomes that we believe that service helps improve. So during, in a previous webinar, we elaborated on the Learn, Act, Reflect stages of service. And we always suggest during the ACT phase that you set really intentional goals about what you want to do with your service project, including like how many hours you want to serve, how many people you want to engage, but also be really intentional about the development you want to see in your volunteers. So Generation On is always looking to see how has compassion, caring, empathy, and gratitude developed, as well as, again, creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. There are multiple opportunities to develop and work on these different skills in service, and we just wanted to bring that back to you so you can be mindful of what your youth outcomes might be. These are the ones we use, but there are also a lot of other ones that other club facilitators might be using, but we just wanted to highlight these 8 for you today.
Definitely. Thank you, Raela, for sharing that part of the reflection piece. And again, we just want to go over again the 3 major takeaways of this webinar today, and it is how can we as facilitators, as educators, as youth developers, we can empower our youth to serve. And we said that we want to help them to identify their values by helping them to see themselves as important to their community, as assets. Also, we want to help them to build confidence and ownership by encouraging them to participate and increase their civic engagement levels. And also, towards the end, we want them to reflect. We want them to see themselves and see how they have grown through this experience, what they have gained, and also how they have changed the community. So we want them to measure the growth and also look into the 21st century skills and the social emotional competencies. So these are, again, the 3 main buckets, and we hope, again, this is one perspective on how you can empower youth. You are the experts, and there might be many others, but this is one approach that you can utilize to uplift your youth and kids in your clubs.
So Generation On has a really exciting campaign coming up called the Joy Maker Challenge from November 21st to December 23rd. It is a really exciting time to get involved with volunteering during the holiday season. So if you go to joymaker.generationon.org, you'll find this website. And here you can plan out what you're going to do, find lesson plans, get inspired. Then there's a place to reflect, which is super important because once you've done your volunteer activity, you can come back and tell us what you did and share with us, and you can win a grant. And also, what's really exciting about this campaign is Hasbro has teamed up with us, and they're going to turn acts of service into donations of toys and games to kids in need up to $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah, great. So again, just to recap, the Joy Maker Challenge is during the holiday season, and through our microsite, you can tell us what you plan on doing, and then you can look up different ideas, and then you can share your story for a chance to win grants. It's really, really simple. It's just another great way to get involved.
Yeah, definitely. And also winning a grant opportunity. Awesome. So, as always, Generation On want to provide you with the tools and resources on how to help you to have more meaningful service projects and empower you to serve. So, our next webinar is about identifying community needs and assets. It will be facilitated on Tuesday, December 13th. And the link is on this presentation as well in our website and Facebook group. So far, we have scheduled it for 3 p.m. However, we sent out a survey about the timing because we would like to have more of you in our and participating because it's a very important webinar. So we most likely be changing the time to 6 p.m. We will notify all of you of the changes, but so far this is the topic and also the time that we will be facilitating the webinar. We really hope that you gain a lot of information today and tools to uplift the voices of your youth and your kids in your clubs. So now is the time for questions, concerns, and if we haven't go over a topic or you want us to elaborate more on a specific idea, we're more than happy to do so right now.
Yeah, and again, I just wanted to shout out again to Jean. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your input and your insight, and we learn best from facilitating. We'll stay on the line for a couple more minutes. You can enter your question in the chat box or in the question box. Otherwise, we will catch you later. No questions? All right. Have a good weekend, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.